This is not a motivational video, and it is not designed to make you feel inspired or uplifted. It is a practical outline of how stability is built in a world that constantly produces pressure, uncertainty, and distraction. Strength, in the Stoic sense, is not emotional intensity. It is the ability to remain functional, clear, and consistent when conditions are not favorable. What follows is not a list of hobbies or lifestyle preferences. It is a minimum set of practices that train character through repeated exposure to effort, restraint, and responsibility. There is nothing romantic here. Only methods that work. Number 1. Physical training. Physical training is not about appearance, competition, or self-expression. It is about reliability. A body that is regularly trained learns how to endure stress, recover from effort, and continue functioning under resistance. This directly affects the mind, because a body accustomed to discomfort reduces emotional volatility. Training builds discipline through repetition, not motivation. You show up even when conditions are imperfect. A capable body supports a composed mind, especially when pressure is unavoidable. Number 2. Walking. It is a way to regulate the nervous system and allow the mind to process information without force. Rhythmic movement creates a mental state in which thoughts slow down, connect more naturally, and lose their urgency. This is why philosophers and scientists walked regularly, not for health trends, but because thinking improves when the body moves steadily. No music. No phone. No destination. Just consistent forward movement. This is not the critical, anxious voice of daily obligation, but the quieter, deeper current of intuition. Walking creates the necessary distance between you and your problems, allowing you to observe them rather than be consumed by them. You realize that you are not your thoughts, you are the space in which they move, just as you are the path upon which your feet tread. Furthermore, walking reunites the fragmented self. Modern life often traps consciousness in the head, disconnected from the body. The rhythmic impact of feet against the ground acts as an anchor, pulling awareness down from the abstract and into the physical. Breath synchronizes with stride. Shoulders drop. The jaw unclenches. This somatic reconnection signals safety to the brain, dissolving the artificial emergencies constructed by the mind. You remember that you are a biological organism designed to move through space, not a machine designed to process data. There is also a profound lesson in surrender. On a walk, you cannot control the terrain, the weather, or the obstacles that appear. You can only control your next step. This micro-practice of acceptance trains you to release the need for total control in other areas of life. You learn that progress does not require force, and that clarity often arrives not when you are staring intensely at a problem, but when you are looking at the horizon while moving away from it. Ultimately, the destination is irrelevant because the transformation happens during the transit. When you return home, you do not bring back the same mind that left. You bring back a quieted nervous system, a body that remembers its rhythm, and a spirit that has remembered how to simply be. Walking is not just exercise, it is a moving meditation, a daily return to the ground of your own being. Number 3. Martial arts. Martial arts and combat disciplines are not valuable because they teach aggression. They are valuable because they teach restraint. Imagine a coiled spring. It holds immense energy, but it doesn't explode unless it needs to. That is the heart of martial arts. Many people look at a dojo and see a place where violence is practiced. They see punches, kicks, and throws, and they think, this is about learning how to hurt. But the truth is the exact opposite. Martial arts is the study of how not to hurt. Here is why that distinction changes everything. When you train, you quickly discover that your body is a weapon. You learn that a single punch can shatter bone. You learn that a throw can end a life. Once you truly understand the damage you could cause, you become terrified of using it lightly. You don't walk around looking for fights, you walk around knowing exactly how expensive a fight really is. Think of martial arts training as installing high-performance brakes on a fast car. Anyone can press the gas, aggression. It takes skill to stop at the edge of a cliff, restraint. In training, you get heated. You get tired. You get frustrated. But you learn to breathe through it. You learn that reacting instantly to anger is a weakness. Responding with a calm mind is strength. There is a difference between a harmless person and a peaceful person. A harmless person doesn't fight because they don't know how. If pushed too far, they might panic or break. A peaceful martial artist doesn't fight because they choose not to. They have tested themselves. They know their limits. They have stared down conflict in the safety of the gym and learned to master their own heartbeat. The ultimate lesson. Real strength isn't loud. It doesn't need to prove itself. It doesn't need to intimidate. True power is like a sword kept in its sheath. Everyone knows it is there. Everyone knows it is sharp. But because the hand holding it is steady and wise, the sword stays quiet. That is the gift of the discipline, to be dangerous enough to protect, but disciplined enough to remain kind. Number 4, meditation. Meditation is not spiritual escape. It is attention training. By observing thoughts without immediately reacting to them, you learn to separate impulse from action. Over time, this creates space between what happens and how you respond. That space is critical under stress. A calm mind is not passive or indifferent. It is deliberate, focused, and capable of choosing its response instead of being driven by impulse. And here's the liberating truth: meditation doesn't demand perfection. You don't have to sit every single day. Some days, your mind is too loud, your heart is too heavy, or you simply don't want to. That's okay. Forcing it turns practice into punishment. Come back when you're ready. The practice will still be there. You also don't need a cushion or silence to train your attention. You can meditate while washing dishes, feeling the warm water, noticing the rhythm of your hands. You can meditate while walking, feeling your feet touch the ground, one step at a time. You can meditate while waiting in line, watching your breath instead of reaching for your phone. The goal isn't to escape life. It's to show up for it fully, one deliberate moment at a time. Number 5, solitude. Solitude is not loneliness. It is not isolation from the world. It is the ability to remain alone without distraction, stimulation, or external validation. Think of solitude like a clear lake at dawn. When the wind stops and the surface stills, you can finally see what lies beneath. When you remove the noise, the notifications, the chatter, the busyness, you are forced to confront your own thinking patterns, your fears, your inconsistencies. This is uncomfortable. But it is necessary. Why? Because in the quiet, you stop performing for an audience that isn't there. You stop editing yourself. You meet the raw, unfiltered version of who you are. And that meeting, though unsettling at first, is where real self-knowledge begins. Regular solitude builds internal orientation. It's like developing an inner compass. When you spend time alone with your thoughts, you learn to trust your own judgment. You stop relying on constant feedback, likes, comments, applause, to determine your direction. You begin to move from what will they think to what do I know to be true. A person who can stand being alone is far less dependent on approval, trends, or group pressure. They don't follow the crowd because they are afraid of silence. They don't chase validation because they have already made peace with their own company. And a gentle reminder: solitude doesn't have to be a marathon. You don't need to lock yourself away for hours. Start small. 5 minutes with your coffee, no phone. A walk without headphones, sitting by a window, simply watching the light change. Some days, you won't feel like it. Some days, the quiet will feel too heavy. That's okay. Solitude is not a punishment or a rigid rule. It is an invitation, one you can accept when you are ready. The goal is not to escape people, the goal is to return to yourself. When you are comfortable in your own presence, you no longer need the world to fill the spaces inside you, you become steady, grounded, free. And from that place of inner stillness, you can engage with the world, not because you need it, but because you choose to. Number 6, deep reading. Deep reading is not entertainment. It is sustained cognitive effort. In a world designed for scrolling, skimming, and swiping, stopping to engage with a complex idea is an act of rebellion. It is mental heavy lifting. Serious texts demand concentration. They ask you to hold multiple ideas in your head at once. To follow a thread through a maze. To pause when you don't understand and rewind. This is frustrating. It is supposed to be. Friction is where the growth happens. These skills are increasingly rare and therefore increasingly valuable. When everyone else is distracted, the person who can focus wins. When everyone else reacts to headlines, the person who understands context sees the whole board. Through reading, you gain access to perspectives shaped by hardship, responsibility, and long-term thinking. You don't have to live 100 lives to learn from them, you can borrow the wisdom of those who came before. A single page can save you a year of mistakes. This creates context for your own problems and decisions. You realize your struggle is not unique, and your solution may already exist in the past. Reading trains endurance of the mind in the same way physical training conditions the body. You wouldn't expect to lift heavy weights on day one. You shouldn't expect to digest dense philosophy without strain. Start small. One chapter, one essay, one idea fully understood. And a quiet truth, deep reading doesn't demand speed. You don't need to devour a book a week. Some pages take days to digest. That's not failure, that's depth. You don't need to finish every book you start. If a book doesn't speak to you, put it down. The right book will find you when you are ready to hear it. The goal is not to count books, the goal is to let the books count. It's not about how many pages you turn, but how many turns your mind makes while reading them. If you read one page that changes how you see the world, that is a victory. A mind that reads deeply does not wander aimlessly, it moves with purpose. It questions. It connects. It builds. Deep reading is not about escaping reality, it is about equipping yourself to handle it. Number 7, writing. Writing is not just recording. It is discovering. You might think you know what you think until you try to write it down. In your head, ideas feel smooth and complete. On paper, they often collapse, they reveal gaps, contradictions, and vagueness. This is not failure, this is the work. Writing forces you to slow down, it demands you define your terms. It strips away the emotional fog and asks, what do you actually mean? What survives the page is what is clear, structured, and honest. When you write, you cannot hide from yourself, you see your own logic flaws, you see where you are pretending to know something you don't. This is uncomfortable, but it is the only way to sharpen your judgment. People who write regularly develop sharper minds. They become less tolerant of vague thinking, especially their own. They stop accepting half-truths because they know what it feels like to wrestle a thought into clarity. And here is the freedom: you do not need to be an author, you do not need an audience, you do not even need to write every day. Some days, the words won't come, some days, what you write will be messy, disjointed, or raw. That is allowed. Writing is not about performance, it is about excavation. Write in a notebook no one will see. Write on napkins. Write bullet points. The goal is not to create art, it is to clear the fog inside your own head. A mind that writes does not stay confused. It questions, it clarifies, it finds the truth hidden beneath the noise. Writing doesn't just show what you know. It shows you what you need to learn. Number 8, financial discipline. Financial discipline is not about luxury or status, it is about reducing vulnerability. Money is not just numbers in an account, it is stored energy, stored options, stored peace of mind. Managing resources teaches delayed gratification. It asks you to trade "I want this now" for "I choose security later." This is not deprivation, it is strategy. Every dollar you save is a vote for your future self. Every impulse you pause is a rep in the gym of self-mastery. It replaces short-term emotional relief with long-term stability. That urge to spend when you're stressed, bored, or lonely. It feels like comfort in the moment, but it's a loan from your future, charged with interest. Financial discipline is learning to soothe yourself without borrowing from tomorrow. A person who understands their finances reduces unnecessary stress and increases freedom of choice. When you know where your money goes, you stop fearing the unknown. Bills don't feel like threats, emergencies don't feel like catastrophes. You gain the quiet confidence of someone who has prepared. Dependence creates pressure, pressure erodes judgment. When you rely on others for stability, you compromise your voice. When you live paycheck to paycheck, every decision feels urgent, not intentional. Financial discipline breaks that cycle. It gives you the space to choose, not from fear, but from clarity. Control over resources supports control over decisions. It's not about having more, it's about needing less to feel safe. When you are not ruled by scarcity, you can say no to what drains you and yes to what aligns with your values. And a gentle truth, financial discipline does not demand perfection. You don't need a flawless budget, you don't need to track every penny forever. Some months, you will slip, some choices will not be ideal, that is human. The goal is to be free. Money mastered is not a trophy, it is a tool, a shield, a bridge to the life you choose, not the life you settle for. Financial discipline is not about restriction, it is about sovereignty. Number 9, public speaking. Public speaking is controlled exposure to discomfort. It is not about performance, it is about practice. Standing in front of others and speaking clearly under observation forces you to confront fear directly, rather than avoiding it. Your heart races, your hands tremble, your mind goes blank. This is not weakness, this is the signal that growth is happening. Over time, fear becomes familiar and manageable. You learn that the feeling of anxiety is not a stop sign, it is energy, it is focus, it is your body preparing to meet a challenge. The more you step into that fire, the more you realize, you do not burn, you adapt. Clear speech reflects clear thinking. When you are forced to articulate an idea out loud, you cannot hide behind vague notions. You must structure your thoughts, you must choose your words, you must know what you mean before you can make others understand. In this way, public speaking does not just share ideas, it sharpens them. Confidence emerges from repeated exposure, not affirmations. You cannot think your way into courage, you must act your way into it. Saying, "I am confident," in the mirror does not rewire fear. Standing up, voice shaking, and speaking anyway, that rewires fear. Each time you do it, the path becomes a little smoother. A person who can speak calmly under pressure is more likely to act decisively when it matters, because they have trained their nervous system to stay online when stakes are high. They have practiced breathing through the urge to flee. And a quiet permission. You do not need to start on a stage, you do not need a crowd. Start small, share an opinion in a meeting, ask a question in a group, record a voice note just for yourself. Some days, you will not feel ready, that is allowed. Courage is not the absence of hesitation, it is moving forward despite it. Public speaking is not about being the loudest, it is about being the clearest. It is not about perfection, it is about presence. The goal is not to eliminate fear, the goal is to make fear a companion, not a commander. When you can stand, breathe, and speak, even with a trembling voice, you prove to yourself that you are larger than your discomfort, and that proof changes everything. This is not a complete system, and it is not meant to be impressive. It is the Stoic minimum, the least required to build resilience, clarity, and self-command in unstable conditions. These practices do not make life easier or more pleasant, they make you less fragile. You do not need to adopt all of them at once. But avoiding all of them has consequences.